after drafting Joe Burrow #1 overall in this draft and will release quarterback Andy Dalton, who has had a lot of very good years in Cincinnati. Lois Riddick is with us as well this morning. Let's talk about that. Andy Dalton becomes a free agent quarterback now in a market that has Cam Newton. What do you expect for Dalton out there now?
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, obviously, the conversation is going to immediately focus on the New England Patriots and whether or not, from a fit perspective, does he fit what possibly they would be looking for in terms of a veteran acquisition in the context of their offense. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't have any intel on that, although I would only just say this right now. You know, like over the past 3 years, Andy has really struggled as far as completing above, even getting, cracking the 60% completion percentage plateau, and his yards per attempt have been down too. So, in the six yards per attempt range. Now, a lot of that doesn't, I mean, there are more things than just him that have to do with that. Obviously, pass protection, consistency of the weaponry on the perimeter, all that has to do with that. Now, but it will be interesting to see if New England does investigate this and kick the tires here, because from a profile standpoint, it would make sense from a veteran acquisition standpoint for them.
All right, we just got this off of Adam Schefter's Twitter feed, and I've got Schefty live with me on the phone here. Schefty, thank you this morning. What can you tell us? Andy Dalton, we just reported the news. What can you tell us?
Yeah. Listen, I think the Bengals want to go in an entirely different direction. They draft Joe Burrow #1. He's been studying the Bengals playbook. We told you last week that he was prepared to be their starter. And I think that this now tells you that Joe Burrow is square in line to become their starter. They have enough confidence in what he's picked up in the offense to become their starter, and they don't need to carry $17.7 million against their salary cap. So by releasing Andy Dalton, they clear out a lot of space, save a lot of money. And yes, you would have liked to have traded him. That would have been an ideal scenario. But clearly they never got the right offer. They never got a timely offer. And it didn't work out. Now, maybe they could have taken something before the draft. They decided not to do that. Maybe they thought something better would come along. Clearly it never did. And it worked out to where now, 1 week after the draft, they decided to release Andy Dalton. And so now we've got two separate situations. You got the Bengals setting sail with Joe Burrow, and you've got Andy Dalton on the free agent market joining the likes of Cam Newton, Joe Flacco, any other quarterback that's out there. And once again, as we've talked about throughout the entire offseason, the supply of quarterbacks exceeds the demand for quarterbacks. Most teams have filled their positions. When we look around the league, people still look at New England and wonder whether they would bring in another quarterback to compete with Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer. People look at Jacksonville, which has Josh Dobbs as its backup quarterback to Gardner Minshew at this point in time. You look at a team like the Dallas Cowboys right now, they still don't have a viable, proven, experienced backup for Dak Prescott, who hasn't signed his franchise tag. That's another interesting spot that just sits out there at this point in time. But short of those teams, you tell me a team that has an opening, and there aren't many of them.
Well, no, there isn't, but that's a good list to start with. Schefty, outstanding work, as always. Again, Adam Schefter with the report. The Bengals are releasing Andy Dalton. Do I still have Ryan Clark here? RC, let me just ask you, what is your take on Dalton? Like right now, we look at him, you look at Flacco, you look at Cam. If you're a team that needs a quarterback, how excited are you by this?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing about Andy Dalton is him having enough awareness to understand where he is in his career. You heard Lewis mention what's happened to him over the last 2 years. And so he needs to go to a place that's going to give him an opportunity to compete. And I think that Andy Dalton can be a very good and viable starting quarterback for one of these teams. Now, I do believe he's a bridge guy. I don't believe he's your quarterback for the years to go in the future. But right now, if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, to me, you should be on the phone figuring out, can you get Andy Dalton, and what would be the cost? What would be the price to have him go in and compete with Gardner Minshew to be your starting quarterback? If the New England Patriots are set on Jarrett Stidham, I don't see Andy Dalton necessarily being that much of an upgrade, but the Jacksonville Jaguars are a team that should be very interested in Andy Dalton and what he wants to do going forward.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.